Order, roll please.
Mayor Louis Trujillo.
Present.
Councilor David Romero.
Here.
Councilor Barbara Casey.
Here.
Councilor Michael Montoya.
Present.
Councilor David Ulibarri.
Here.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We do have a quorum.
Thank you. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to take a few moments just to recognize once again all the people who do wonderful work for the city, and that includes the nonprofit organizations, different people who serve on committees, and all the people who volunteer their time and efforts to make Las Vegas better. And I'd like to also thank the employees again for all the wonderful work that they do. And God bless everybody, and thank you for your service to the community.
Mr. Mayor, next item on the agenda is approval of the agenda.
I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the agenda. There's a motion on the floor by Mr. Montoya. Second, please.
Second.
Second by Ms. Casey. Roll call, please.
Councilor Ulibarri.
Yes.
Councilor Romero.
Yes.
Councilor Montoya.
Yes.
Councilor Casey.
Yes.
I have a motion by Councilor Montoya, a second by Councilor Casey. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is public input, and we have one. We have Ana Maria Armijo to speak on Main Street fourth quarter report.
Okay. Welcome, Ana Maria.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here, and thank you all for your service to the community. I had a question about Main Street fourth quarter report. What I was wondering is it appropriate to ask questions with the public comments, or is that strictly just for comment?
You're welcome to ask questions, but this isn't really a time to exchange information as
Okay.
much as to hear from you.
Yeah, I was just curious about the development on the Main Street project through the corridor of South Pacific. In that area, just looking at possible solutions to problems that might come up in that area just after something that happened today. But that's neither here nor there, and that's not part of Main Street. So basically, I'm just curious about the future development through that corridor to revitalize the Old Pecos Trail through there and for the cities, yeah.
Santa Fe Trail, and I believe,
Oh, Santa Fe.
I believe Main Street is going to report on that this evening.
Okay,
I know that they had a meeting, and they sort of got together to discuss annexing South Pacific and restoring the Santa Fe Trail memorabilia.
yeah, that'd be great. Okay, and that's all I wanted to touch base on.
Thank you, Ana Maria.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, that concludes public input.
Thank
Next-
you.
Next item is mayor's appointments, reports, and recognitions and proclamations.
We have an appointment to the library board, Mrs. Teresa Salazar. She wasn't able to make it today, but I'll entertain a motion to approve her appointment to the library board.
Can you tell us a little something about her, Mr. Mayor?
I don't know much about, can you talk, yeah?
Hello, I'm Sally Witters, and I'm also on the library board already. Ms. Teresa Salazar is a native Spanish speaker, so she's bilingual, and she was born in El Salvador and has had, as a career woman, had jobs throughout the world, and she works as a translator for the federal courts in Washington, D.C., has retired from government service, moved last year to the Las Vegas area, and she's ready now, they're settled, and she's ready now to participate in the community and give back, and looks forward very much to the library board. She told me a story that when she was in fourth grade in public schools, it was pointed out by her teacher that she only read at the first grade level. And the teacher encouraged her to get better at reading. So she worked very hard at it. Her father took her to the library once a week, and then he took her to the library twice a week, bought books for her, and by the end of that year, she was reading at the 9th grade level. So she very much is a believer that literacy is important in children's and people's lives.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we appoint Teresa Salazar to the library board.
There's a motion by Ms. Casey, second, please.
Second, Mr. Mayor.
Second by Mr. Romero. Roll call, please.
Counselor Yulabri.
Yes.
Counselor Romero.
Yes.
Counselor Casey.
Yes.
Counselor Montoya.
Yes.
I have a motion by Counselor Casey, a second by Counselor Romero. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Motion carries.
Thank you, Danielle.
Next item on the agenda is recognition of Beatriz Salazar retiring after 24 years of service with the City of Las Vegas Police Department.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Unfortunately, Ms. Salazar was unable to make it today, but she will pick this up at a later time for during the week. So when she retired, we let her know that we were going to accommodate her and appreciate her and thank her on behalf of the city and the Las Vegas Police Department for serving 24 years to the city and the PD. She was a tremendous employee. Her shoes will be very, very hard to fill if they ever get filled. She was a huge asset wherever she was, and like I said, on the behalf of the police department, I want to thank Ms. Salazar for 24 years.
Thank you.
And if you guys want to take a look at the plaque, it's
Thank you.
That is nice.
Yeah, please send her our congratulations. Absolutely.
yes, sir.
Thank you. And if you can get a mailing address for her, I'd like to send her a card.
I will get that.
Okay, thank you so much.
Mr. Mayor, next item on the agenda is councilors' reports.
Counselors? No counselors' reports. Next order of business.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Romero?
and I hate to, I guess, be this way, but I just want to, for the record, and I know sometimes we get criticized quite a bit, and, you know, as a council here, we sit as fiscal responsibility of the city, and also one of the main duties of this council is to develop and put ordinances together. And I guess I want to ask the city manager, Mr. City Manager, in your opinion, what's the city ordinance, in your opinion? Can you give me your what a city ordinance means to you?
What the definition of a city ordinance would be,
In general, I mean, yeah,
would be a law that we have to abide by and enforce.
okay. And the reason why I bring that up is, you know, for some reason, it seems to be that, you know, when we have ordinances here as the city, that they're like recommendations or things we should follow, or you know, either recommendations or advisory or anything, but at the end of the day, the city ordinance is the law of the city of Las Vegas, just like the Constitution is of the state of New Mexico and the Constitution of the United States. And, yeah, you know, it's us to develop that ordinance or policy, and the city manager or police chief, you know, to enforce, you know, those ordinances. And there seems to be, you know, a pick and choose, you know, even amongst some of us up here. Do we, you know, what ordinances should we follow? What ordinances should we, you know, let fly by? And that shouldn't be the case. At the end of the day, we have ordinances for a reason. It's law, and we need to follow that law. And I hate to say that, but, you know, it's, you know, sometimes we hear that, oh, well, you shouldn't do this and you shouldn't do that. But, you know, and, you know, even city staff, you know, I'm going to say this, that, you know, goes along and doesn't follow ordinances and does as they please. And that shouldn't be happening. And I think, you know, as a governing body, we need to be a little more sticker on that, because it puts the city in a position that, you know, we're picking on certain things, and that's not the case. I hate to bring that up, but you know, what needs to be said, and I'll say that. The other thing, I wanted to bring up, and that I think that we need to address here as a city council, is the use of CES. The use of CES, I think, is being overused, especially to, two vendors specifically. And I would suggest that, we look at our policy, internal policy, or our ordinance on the use of CES, just because I don't know if we're getting the best obtainable price on certain situations, and especially, cases that sometimes seem like, they're forced, and that shouldn't be happening. And I think, I want this council to look into that. And yes, at the end of the day, CES, you don't have to get bids, but I think, within finance and administration, they should make an effort, to, even if they're CES vendors, check with the other CES vendors and make sure that, that the citizens of Las Vegas are paying, getting the best price no matter what role we use in procurement. So thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor.
Ms. Casey?
Just a couple of things. I also agree with Councilor Romero on the use of CES. As a former public school administrator that had the option to participate with CES, I opted not to on several occasions because, one, they charged too much. Two, at that time, I really didn't think that they were quite, I don't know, for lack of a better word, legitimate in what they were doing. And I did not feel comfortable including the school districts that I worked for in anything having to do with CES. And I don't know now how they function because I'm not in the position to work directly with them. But I do know that this city spends a lot of money with CES, and I think that we could probably save money if we didn't depend on them so much. The other thing is I have been growing more and more concerned about the negative view of this governing body and the city administration that a lot of people in our town have. And I really feel that some of that is because people don't really know what is going on. And like the old Spanish saying, el sordo no oye pero compone. Somebody who doesn't hear makes things up because they don't know really what's going on. And so I really feel that we need to get a PIO hired as soon as possible that can put up an official city website on Facebook and other social media so that they really know what's happening, And I want to thank Maria for putting the list of projects on our utility bill. Everybody that I have talked to has commented on that and really appreciates it, so thank you for that. And if we could do that on social media, I think that would dispel a lot of misunderstanding and a lot of negativity that is really unnecessary when we're trying to move forward with the city. So if we could do that, and I know that it's been advertised, but I don't know if we've had any applications for that position or not, but maybe it's something that we need to push a little bit harder so that we can get a little bit more information out to the public, be a little bit more transparent about what we're doing so that people don't make up things and misinterpret what's really happening when they don't really quite know. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Montoya?
Yeah, I had a couple of concerns also. I had a couple of constituents call me within the last 2 weeks that they got a citation because they parked on the sidewalk. Well, that's the ordinance. That's what the ordinance reads, and that's what law does. They enforce the law. So, that's why we pass these ordinances. And that's why we have a chief, a fire department, and so forth that have to abide by the law. So it's kind of like a no-brainer that if you break the law, you need to get cited. it needs to go see the judge and so forth. And that goes with mobile homes on the streets and trailer parks, mobile fifth wheels parked on sidewalks, and, trash trucks parked on sidewalks or on the curb, or cars that don't run and are parked there for weeks and weeks and don't move. Those are things that our code enforcement officers that's their job. They're supposed to do that stuff. They're supposed to enforce that. The other thing that I wanted to bring up is, and I wanted to ask the city manager, where are we on an update on the Independence project? Because it's still unpaved and torn up, and where are we at? Do we need money, or the contractor, we're waiting on parts, or what?
So, Councilor, there's a couple things we're waiting on. One was, it was the transition for the new fiscal year, so we were working on a new requisition for a new PO. There were the need to tie in three residents. I think it's three residents there. We did not let the contractor know that those three residents were tied into that main. We thought they were tied in somewhere else. Once we dug it up, we found that they were tied to that main, so that's an additional work. So we have to do a new requisition, new PO to do that work, to figure out how we're gonna tie those three customers in.
So when do we
not finish the paving until we tie those customers in.
when do we anticipate that to be done?
So we have, I believe we submitted the requisitions. The procurement officer is going through a lot of requisitions at the beginning of the year. As soon as we have those requisitions, we'll be able to give the contractor notice to proceed.
Okay.
But it will involve, the issue is we actually don't know, there's no cleanouts. We don't know where their lines are at, so we're gonna have to excavate all along the curb there in the dirt to find them. And then once we find them, then we'll be able to relocate them and then finish the paving.
Okay. And Mr. City Manager, I would request that on the intersection of Independence and South Pacific, you send our street director or engineer or a firm and somebody to analyze that intersection and see what we need to do to improve it for safety purposes. And that includes lighting, crosswalks, sidewalks, and curb and gutter. Because I go through there all the time, and it seems to me like because we don't have a curve on the street, that cars are parked on city right away above the curve where no parking should be happening. And that all needs to be fixed. It's a safety hazard. The other thing is, where are we on our project manager position?
Councilor Montoya, we're waiting till this fiscal budget kicked in so we could advertise, but I believe we started advertising a couple weeks into June. I don't know if we have any applicants at this moment, though.
And who is the project manager for the Legion project?
So currently, it's our staff and our engineering service. They have a on-site observer as well. That's part of their contract.
And then my last item is concerning, an application was put in today for a closure of a street on 8th Street and University and up to 10th Street for an event that's going to be happening at New Mexico Highlands University. And to my understanding, the permit was issued?
Yes,
Is that
sir.
correct?
Yes, sir. I did look at that. There was some concerns about public safety through that corridor. The current AMR base is on the corner of 8th and University, which they would be able to still access the west side going down Douglas Avenue and 12th Street. So it's for a few hours that the new students coming into the university, they're wanting to close off and have vendors on that portion of the street. I thought it would be a good collaboration with ourselves and University of New Mexico, or Highlands University, to let them do that. They're going to make sure that they put jersey barriers, so it's not just temporary barricades, so that nobody can just drive through there and maul down any vendors that are in that corridor. I made sure that in the permit, I made a comment so that they don't close it on the University one way, so that there's still traffic can still go through the one way on University.
So wasn't there any other options, like on, do it on, what is it, on, what's the street in front of the Ophels Auditorium?
University?
University? Wasn't that an option instead of using National?
That was Highland's request, sir.
Highlands Request.
Yes, sir.
And then they also have Melody Park that they could do stuff like that. You know, this really kind of bothers me, Mr. Mayor and Council, because, you know, again, we go back to policies, procedures, and ordinances, and the law. And to my understanding, and I have a report sitting right here, otherwise I wouldn't even bring it up. But our police chief and our police department denied it, our fire chief denied it, our safety section staff denied it, ANMR denied it. So I'm not quite sure who's above the law here. To me, a year and a half ago, New Mexico Highlands University wanted to take over that street, claiming the street, and wanting to close it permanently. I oppose that because I have documentation that the New Mexico DOT back in the 70s gave it to the city of Las Vegas as an entity. And later on in the 90s, they went and did a quick claim to Highlands, which was illegal and not appropriate. And I would say that that street belongs to the city still. And my biggest concern is the safetiness of our public. Because we have a fire department on New Mexico Avenue, and we have the police department over in Moreno Street around the plaza. And anytime they have a call on your district, Councilor Casey or Councilor Romero, they have to go through Bridge Street, and they got to go through that street national. That's the fastest way to get to an emergency. And by shutting down this street, I'm saying that we are putting people in danger. People's lives in danger. We won't get there in time if there should be a disaster or catastrophe on this side of town. So I don't know whose decision. I guess that was your decision. I don't know if it was your sole decision, but I don't think that you have the authority to overrule them. On a safety issue, the law is the law. So, Mr. Mayor and Council, I don't know where we move on this one, but, you know, other locations could just serve as well. But, I mean, I'm not one to have whatever concert or whatever at the expense of the taxpayer or at the expense of the citizens. And vice versa with the ambulance. If the ambulance has to go across town to Old Town, I mean, what are they going to do? Go through Grand and New Mexico or go through Grand and Mills? You know, to me, I don't get it. I mean, I think we're smarter than that. So I think that, I don't know if that application can be reviewed, or I don't know if they've already made a final payment on it, or I don't know where it's at, but I don't think anybody should be over the law, and we ought to respect these departments. That's their job. They're the ones that tell us if it's okay to have an event or not. They're the ones that tell us whether, when we have a catastrophe or a fire or whatever, they give us advice as what the plan is. And to me, I don't think, you know, and I support New Mexico Highlands University, don't get me wrong. And we supported them with the golf course and other stuff. But the point is, this thing is nothing about support, about friends or anything like that. It's about public safety. And I think this is wrong to do, and I just needed to let it out and let people know that, you know, this is unacceptable to me.
Thank you.
And I don't know what Mayor and Council would want to do about it, or what we can do about it. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
We can't do anything at this
Mr.
meeting
Mayor.
because it's not on the agenda.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
Mr. City Manager, what's going on with the pumps at Rodriguez Park? I got some concerns, people concerned about the fields that look really bad. They say, what's going on? And you guys don't want, put some water on them or something, right? But we've been talking about this for the past year and a half, and I think we had a pump situation there, and it's almost every, this second year that we came through that, you know, we don't have any water for our fields, and they look really bad. And then another note on South Pacific Park, the contractors finished their job there, because we were talking about they were gonna pull out the horseshoes and develop that area. I don't know if they finished or they're still working on it.
So, Counselor, on On your first question pertaining to the pumps, so the pumps gave out, or froze, I should say, during the thawing process of the going from winter into spring. And so when we found that the two pumps had swelled up and froze and they weren't usable, we, Ms. Maria, go ahead and solicited quotes from the vendor that we use for our pumps. They gave us the quotes, then our fiscal year ended. So we processed the requisition, and there's two pumps that are on order to get replaced at those fields. But in previous years, they had been functioning. In regards to the park, there is a requisition for a swing set to go in, and in that, they will be removing some of those old horseshoe pits that are deemed sort of a liability towards the city.
Thank you, sir.
So that project is still ongoing.
What's the timeline on the pumps? When can we expect them to be installed and working?
We'll have to communicate with our vendor to see how far out they are, Mayor.
Could you put a rush on this? Could you let the vendor know that we need them here as soon as possible? It's critical. We just spent millions of dollars on that park. So if there's anything the vendor can do, if we need to meet them in California to pick them up or whatever the case is, if you need to rush delivery, rush order, get them here, get them installed like tomorrow.
Mayor, just so we're all on the same page, the two new fields that just got converted, they're all turf, so there's no watering on those. These are just two other fields that were used, that the pumps will be used on.
Yeah, I understand that, but it's still an investment that we're making in that park.
Yes, sir.
And so we need that pump installed. Can you get back with me on communication with the vendor tomorrow and let me know, or you can give me their number and I can inquire and I'll call them?
We'll get you an answer.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Mayor, does that also include the other parks? These pumps, is that the reason?
Has nothing to do with the other pumps. That was some issues that we had with our affluent line. Ms. Maria and some staff found some things that were wrong go ahead.
We had a couple issues on our effluent line. One was we had a blowout on our main line, and that put the system down for a little while. And then once we got it back online, we had an issue with our surge tank. And so those items have resulted in actually, it appears, high pressure. And so we were working on addressing that issue so we could make sure we were taking care of all the customers properly.
Because I passed by 6 o'clock this morning at Lincoln Park and the sprinklers were on, but there weren't any pressure.
And we actually, Councilor, we had run out of water this morning, which is one of the issues with the
Thank you. Next order of business, please.
Mr. Mayor, next item is Police Chief's report.
Welcome Main Street de Las Vegas. Who's
No,
coming to do?
Police Chief's report.
Oh, I thought you said Main Street. I'm
Sorry.
jumping ahead of everyone. Well, welcome anyway. Go ahead, Chief. Thank you.
I'll make it quick so they can hurry up and get up here that way.
I didn't mean to flush you.
I'm just kidding. So the report for June 2023, calls for service, we had 1,400. Out of those calls, we had 56 arrests and 200 traffic citations, 201 traffic citations. Our investigations, narcotics and evidence division, if you guys look at the bottom there, we've seized 48 grams of methamphetamine and 10 fentanyl pills off of 8 search warrants that were conducted. And also on an update on our narcotics division, they are back up and running, getting search warrants done, taking a look at certain houses, target areas around the city. So they're, us, Sheriff's Office, and the District Attorney's Office each have an agent that are working, hours varying. So they're out on the streets. Evidence seized by agents, investigations, and police officers will go down to the 2 illegal firearms were seized, and 50 grams of methamphetamine from patrol were seized. One of the trainings that we have, this is an important one for the police department. Our Lieutenant David Latalo, he went to a Glock armor and a rifle armor training course for that will help with inventory for our firearms, more training for our officers, more advanced training for our firearms and officers. Here are vacancies. We currently have 27. We have 3 potential officers who are in the application process. It's potentially set for the academy in January or July. Here is a code and compliance overview, what we've done, some of our goals that we're looking to accomplish. We had 145 calls, 105 citations for the month of June. And then I'll go to the next slide here. These are the common code violations that we see. Yard maintenance, so the picture on the left is, I mean, it's an ideal one, but the picture on the right, that's what we're seeing throughout the city. And it's not everything, it's not 1 through 10 is what we're seeing. It could be the grass overgrowth, abandoned vehicles in the parking lot. It was mentioned earlier, some of the vehicles that were parked in the yards, possibly on the sidewalks. But those are some of the vehicles, or some of the concerns that we're seeing, most common issues that we're seeing with violations regarding code. Our compliance process, so they would, anybody who is out of compliance or is issued a red tag for violation of a code enforcement or code violation, they would issue a red tag, followed up by a citation, and then it would go into a court hearing. After that, the court hearing the judge would let them know any stipulations that they have to do, clean up the property or anything like that, whatever the judge stipulates. That would take, they have 2 to 5 days after that then to get into compliance. And that, they would, if they're not in compliance, they would go back into the courts, whether it be municipal or district court. So we want to make a flyer. I'll go to the last slide here. This is just our information for our code, how to reach code code compliance. They can either go visit us at the address 318 Moreno, which is the police department, or call the cell phone, the code officer's cell phone, or call the police department. And down here at the bottom are the 2 code enforcement emails. We have another one. We'll get them plugged in. So we have 3 code enforcement officers. One of the ones, if you guys go down to number 3, we want to complete and we're working on it right now, a code compliance welcome packet to the community. Whether it be a flyers, kind of like a guidebook on some of the common violations that we see, and hopefully we can do a little bit of preventative maintenance on that. Another thing, we want to discuss with IT, and we'll set up meetings later to see if we can put that packet online, or to see if we can put more information online regarding code violations. So whenever we go back to the welcome packet, it's going to be more or less this picture here, along with some other verbiage and how to contact code enforcement and report a violation if anybody sees a violation, such as these here in the picture to the right, 1 through 8. Whether it be driving by or whether it be your neighbors, we just want to give people an opportunity to report any code violations and make it as easy as possible. But that's it, and I stand for any questions.
Chief, can you go back to the slide that has the process, how from citation, all that? Okay. And let me ask you this, Chief. There seems to be, like I said, a lot of nonsense, but have you ever, I'm going to put you on the spot, any one of us given you a call and you been given direction to bypass all of that?
No. And
the reason why I ask that is there seems to be, we make a call and we give direction without going through the proper channels, and all of a sudden you jump from no thing to, so everything that you've ever dealt with in your cases that you're dealing with right now, everything has gone through them, am I correct?
So, and I'll kind of explain, this is just a process that we follow normally. But if we picture, we had stated statutes and laws and statutes of New Mexico and ordinances or laws and the same, picture it as like a stop sign violation. We don't necessarily have to give them a notice. That
No, and I guess I'm going more towards code enforcement.
Yes.
You know, that's where I'm.
And we have, in some cases, we've, a red tag doesn't always have to be a red tag. This is just the ideal procedure. If they issued a red tag, sometimes it doesn't require a citation. They get into compliance. Sometimes it's just a home visit and letting them know that, your yard is overgrown or you have abandoned vehicles. And out of that, without a red tag documentation, they can go straight into citation a week later. But and to answer your question even like more, I've never received.
But you, I guess and then one of the main questions here is, so you go through a process. It just, you don't pop up one day and say, hey, we're taking you to court, we're gonna arrest you, we're gonna, do any of this. There's a process, right? Am I right?
Correct, yes. There is a process, whether it be talking to them or red tag, but there is a process before we go to court. Our main goal is for people to be in compliance. When we make that initial contact, we give them a period of, sometimes even we give them the whole 2 to 5 days. But we just would prefer.
And I just want to say, I know we've even had the concerns here to where like, this certain yard has overgrowth, has this, has that. And and even the city manager, depending on, who's giving us the update, oh, well, it's in this process. It's at the courts, it's this. So it's understanding. So I just, I guess just want to clarify that there's a process and it's just not, picking on individuals. I mean, if we had more code enforcement, there'd be probably more concerns and more complaints, but, we're just doing the best that we can. And sometimes, we can't have our cake and eat it too. We have to, people say, oh, well, there's the neighbors and their city looks like trash. They look like, we try to do the best. Our staff tries to do the best that they can. And then when they do, they're criticized. So that's, I guess you can say more a comment, and I wanted to ask you that question because I think that needs to be said that, we've never, have never pushed, where it goes from no discussion to all of a sudden you're out of here. So thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Montoya?
Chief, 2 years ago, last year, I went to the city manager and reported the Savomat on 5th and University because the weeds were so high, 5 foot high, that somebody could hide in there and not know they're there, whether it's homeless or otherwise. And they got cleaned up. And then it got cleaned up last year again. This year, before July 4th, 2 weeks prior, I asked for it to be cleaned again. People are coming into town, and it wasn't cleaned. I don't know who dropped the ball or what, but I don't even think today it's cleaned up yet. It is today. So did the city go in there and clean it up, or did the owners go and clean it up?
Counselor, as we've discussed at an earlier meeting, that the city has gone through and done abatements on the property for a couple of years now. Our previous attorney did put a lien on the property and put it into the courts. Once it got into the courts, the owners that are out of Dallas, Texas, I believe, they pay the lien on the property just to suffice until the next growing season. So we have gone in there again and cleaned the weeds again, and we'll go through the process again.
And then the other item that I have, Chief, is, thank you. The other item I have is now that we are having a construction there on Legion, people haven't stopped slowing down, no. And they're still going a little bit fast, so I would recommend that you patrol that area a little bit more, if you can, if it's possible.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
I did have a meeting with someone in the park, and they're concerned about Harris Lake and the characters that are hanging around there. He says he takes his kiddos to have fun, and he gets worried because there's people there that are doing some crazy things, and asked if the police can go over there and clean it up. Thank you, Chief.
Yes, and then one more thing, it'll be really quick. We are scheduled to have a meeting next week for that community event planning group. It's just the initial meeting. It's to spend funds for the marijuana funds that you guys had addressed last week, but that is in the process. We are getting the first meetings addressed, and we'll have a game plan on how to spend that money for drug awareness and youth, and also parents.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor. Just to inform Mayor and Council, I did get that email today, and I did put in for 9 o'clock. They do have different sections throughout the day. They have 4 different sections, 2 hours at each section. So that way, if anyone of you want to get involved, there's not a quorum.
Oh, that's for the Sunny 505?
Yeah,
Yeah,
thank you.
thank you. Next order of business, please.
Mr. Mayor, next item is the finance report. We have our finance director, Tasha Martinez.
Welcome, Tasha. Did you get over the budget thing?
We're getting closer. Inching closer and closer.
Well, thank you for all your hard work.
Yes, sir.
I know you jumped into a frying pan when you started here.
It's a project I'm taking on, but there's great support in the office, so it's.
That's good to hear. And let us know if we can help you in any way. If you need any resources or we need to look at, pay raises for your employees or whatever it is, you let us know and we'll support you in any way. Okay?
Yes, ma'am. Okay. So tonight I'm here to present the figures for June 2023. And I'll start off with our general fund. Our revenues exceeded expenditures, resulting in a surplus of $946. For our enterprise fund, our revenues exceeded expenditures, resulting in a surplus of $219,072. Our recreation fund, our revenues exceeded expenditures, resulting in a surplus of $32,835. Our lodgers tax funds revenues exceeded expenditures, resulting in a surplus of $329,638. And lastly, our cannabis revenues exceeded our expenditures, resulting in a surplus of $98,960. And I stand for any questions.
So you'll get my standard question, but is there anything in your report that you need to advise council on that you're worried about or that jumps out at you? Okay. Thank you. Any questions? Thank you. Thank you for your time and thank you for your dedication. Appreciate it. Next order of business, please.
Mr. Mayor, next item is business items. We have business item number 1, Main Street de Las Vegas, fiscal year 2022 to 2023, fourth quarter report.
It's my turn now?
Yes.
Welcome, Main Street de Las Vegas.
Hello.
How is everybody this evening?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm good. So we apologize, Michael Pranto is unable to attend, so we came in his stead, so hopefully we'll be able to answer all questions for you. If they could pull up the PowerPoint presentation that we provided, would be great.
Oh, she was asking if you know me.
So I am now the new president for Main Street de Las Vegas. I've moved into this role the past couple of weeks, so I'm really looking forward to working with the city and continuing our relationship on how we can continue to move forward to make Las Vegas great and continue to. So I'm really excited at the future. So I'll be presenting on the first part of slides, and this is more of an overview of what we've done for the past year. This is the fourth quarter report that we'll be presenting. So we can go to slide 2. One of our biggest initiatives was the Great Blocks in the Historic Railroad District. This was part of Phase 1 of the $2.2 million construction project, which involved East Lincoln Avenue. It's almost complete. We are just, what is remaining is the streetscape of trees, plants, and some street furniture to be provided. Will also be included as a deliverable in Main Street de Las Vegas 2023 to 2024 city contract. Preparation for Phase 2, which is $1.2 million, which includes Railroad Avenue, is ongoing. City manager is working with us to get the contractor in place, and the funds must be spent by June 30th, 2024. Next slide. We have the fourth, this is our economic development. So in this past quarter, we had 3 building renovations, which totaled $175,000. We had 2 building purchases, which is always great to see, for $382,000. Private sector grants that were awarded was for $6,562. And we are planning, or starting our planning for our gala. So we have had some events with table sales of, I apologize, I cannot read that, $3,000. And then with that, if you look at, we are volunteer minus Michael Pronto and Cindy's contract, we have volunteer hours, and so we've had 114 volunteer hours that have helped with our program and moving the city forward. Now, the building here, I don't know if you guys have driven past it. It's right there on Douglas and Railroad. It's considered a renovated mixed-use building that they just completed. It's really fabulous. Can't wait to see what's going to go in place there. The next slide is our community cleanup. We did have 3 trash pickups this last quarter with District 1 on November 5th. I'm sorry, throughout the year. So the first was in District 1 on November 5th. Railroad Avenue, and on April 21st on the Riverwalk in conjunction with the Forestry School at NMHU, and then one on April 22nd on the Railroad District. Those have always been really great. I think between those, if we continue those, we can hit those really hard spots at times that sometimes get overseen, especially when the winds do pick up. This is always a great opportunity to get New Mexico Highlands University students and our community involved. The next is our mural project. So Vistas de Las Vegas, which is a citywide mural project funded by the National Endowment for the Arts. We were a recipient, and we received the first of the 2 of 4 murals. One in each city council district will be done by 2024. But for these 2, we identified locations for South Grand Avenue mural, which is by Paula Lopez in District 4, and then the fire station is waiting to be done for Mural 1, which is going to be Faith and Felix Galvin in District 2. I know we are waiting for, stucco just happened on one of those buildings, and we are waiting for paint to arrive so we can continue and complete those projects. Then, of course, we've been involved in our holiday events. We try to be present for citywide events. And part of our request by the city, we see this as an opportunity for us to be involved and to promote what we're doing and inform the community of art and engage with them to let them know what Main Street de Las Vegas is. So on this one, we have our, next slide, sorry. We have Tina Clayton, who's a board member, and our wonderful Cindy Collins, volunteering for Boo Fest at 2022. Next slide, please. This has to do with New Mexico Main Street and how we try to work with providing service requests from the New Mexico Main Street director. Anytime we need any services, we can reach out to them to get those. And we had 2 that we worked with in this last quarter, which was with Robin Bobin. She's a New Mexico Main Street marketing specialist to work on our branding and marketing for Main Street de Las Vegas. We revamped the logo and all of the images moving forward. You'll get to see those as we proceed through the gala and invitations. You'll see more of that logo. The other was William Powell, which he's the architect for New Mexico Main Street, was brought in to take a look at the old City Hall. And then we also had some others. If I could have the next slide, please. Auntie's Tiendita. William Powell also went through to take a look at the front of the restaurant to identify potential ways to increase beautifying the front of that, as well as this other, I know we were reaching out to identify any potential new location for Councilor Montoya's ward to identify if it could be brought into Main Street. Those are my part of the slides. I'm going to hand it over to Cindy Collins. Yes, ma'am.
On the murals, what are the locations for, are all the locations picked? And the the mural for Ward 4, where will that be?
For District 4? I believe that one is going to be at the South Grand Avenue
No, but
on the building. I believe it's going to be behind the caboose. Susie Sightsee is here. If you want, I can have her come up and she could provide some more information.
It's the old, where your old office was, the health
Yeah.
council office.
Okay. And, okay, thank you. And the others that are on the slide, are those the other ones that have already been selected for?
These are
other
the two
wards?
that have been selected. I know we have your ward still needs to be identified, and Ward 3 needs to be identified.
This is the fire
I
station.
am, okay. So all of these are the fire station?
That's one, yeah.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. I just need a clarification on that.
Next slide, please. Main Street participated in Small Business Saturday, which, as you all know, is a national effort to educate people to shop small and independent businesses. We co-sponsored Arts and Cultural District First Fridays, which is to get people out on the first Friday of each month to our independent businesses. The next slide. We conducted 2 community forums with the assistance of New Mexico Main Street staff. One was a community forum for Las Vegas entrepreneurs, and that was held in the depot in the upstairs conference room. And the other was a public input or community forum with the residents and any business owners on South Pacific, talking about what it means to South Pacific if we can extend our Main Street district to South Pacific, just as Anna Maria had asked earlier, and that's still in process. It has to be approved by New Mexico Main Street. But I thought Michael did a great job in including the folks that will absolutely be involved in that decision.
Mr. Romero?
So I had a question on that one, and I'm not sure if you're aware, and I know I brought it to the city, before this meeting was held, I brought it to the city manager's attention, and I did check with the state fire marshal's office. Main Street is a quasi-government, and I'm not sure if you guys were aware of this, and I don't know if it was brought to your attention prior to the meeting, and that's the reason why I didn't attend, is that building doesn't have an occupancy certificate.
Which building?
Where you guys conducted the meeting? At Ludy's. And that was, I'm hoping that was told to you guys, but that was my concern on that. It should, I mean, when you bring the public in, if it was just the owner and the contractors, then that's okay. But when you brought in the public and it was announced and that, then you're conducting a public business and it didn't have an occupancy clearance, and that's a big issue, and I think probably Councilor Montoya can invest to this because his son worked with the State Fire Marshal's office, so.
Mr. Romero, yeah, I was invited, and that's the simple reason I didn't attend.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, did anybody share that information with Main Street prior to the meeting?
I brought it up in here in the council meeting, Mr. Mayor.
Prior to that meeting?
Yes.
Yes, you did.
Oh, I was out. Thank you.
So, and then the other part on that, and maybe you could answer this, is there was some community members, residents that live in that area, and they were told that the proposal is only right at the Ludy's building towards the plaza and not the whole thing. Is that?
Yes, I think New Mexico Main Street has advised us that it can't be the whole 2 miles of South Pacific. That's too long. We're already too long, Main Street District. So I believe the boundaries, which will be written up if it's approved, would be from the Plaza Park up to Ludy's.
And I believe
So that wouldn't even make sense because that leaves out the Tiendita part.
I don't know the name of the street on the corner, do you know?
Sapeo.
Sapeo.
That's what it is.
Just,
Could we, I mean, and like I said, I didn't go to that meeting because, it didn't have a, public meeting and, put in danger with, a construction site that, didn't have any, valid occupancy, through the state fire marshal's office. I just, if I could have those conversations with you to see about extending, because we do have some businesses at the beginning of it, and I'd like to kind of see what the reasoning for that is. That'd be possible.
Definitely.
Okay.
I'll make note of that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next slide, please. Main Street worked with the city to install wayfinding signage throughout the district. This project was initiated in 2016 and was funded through 2 grants from city lodgers tax. The next slide. Main Street and the city were awarded an additional $1.2 million to finish the Great Blocks project on East Lincoln and Railroad. Governor Lujan Grisham came to our town, to the depot site, and made the announcement of the award. Next slide. We held a Community Recovery Month event last September in the community garden that is being developed on Railroad in Douglas. And our sponsors were the 4th Judicial Treatment Co., is that? And the 4th Judicial DWI Adult Group, City of Las Vegas.
That is me with a shovel in my hand. I actually know how to use one. All right.
That's Mr. Mayor in the flower shirt. The next slide, please. These are additional events that Main Street has held. The Las Vegas Memory Wall, which is in the community art park, was installed in June of just this year. Community garden, I should say. And here's a photo of city workers helping us to clean the area. And the last slide is we are hosting a housing summit. Or did we already do that? Friday?
No, it's coming up.
Okay. Using what worked in Espanola and Albuquerque, this is a summit with United Urban Land Institute of New Mexico to address housing shortage in our community. Las Vegas and ULI are hosting a housing summit on Wednesday, September 13th, in a few months. They will handle the logistics and fund the expenses related to the project, and the major outcome will be a housing needs assessment that will help the city figure out how to deal with housing.
So will the big entities be invited? Highlands University, NMBHI, all of us that are struggling to keep professionals in town? Okay.
Yes, actually, this came through my office when I was at New Mexico Association of Realtors. I was working with a realtor. He happened to find out I live in Las Vegas, and he's part of this Urban Land Institute, and they need to find ways to try and give money so that way they can help communities identify solutions for housing shortages.
Thank you.
So yes, we will make sure everybody who needs to be there will be invited.
Thank you. Well, thank you. It's a very good report. You guys have been busy, and thank you for all the work that you do for our community. It's greatly appreciated. And I know that you said, you're a team with one paid employee, I think, and you do a very good job at what you do and organizing. And from the bottom of my heart, I thank you for your service to the community. Yes, sir.
I just want to make a comment. I'm glad to hear that, because I know that, we talk about working together, and I'm going to be honest and straight up with you, with you guys, is for a while I didn't feel that Mr. Parantu was being as, when we approved this contract, there was in the minutes that specifically said he would work with us on the murals and the locations and that. Twice, he came up in my district, came up with different, I told him at the beginnings, at the caboose, at the Welcome Center on the building, because there's a nice wall that faces Grand. And, it was kind of like my suggestions were ignored. I came up with 2 other ones and finally came up with this one. I'm glad to hear that it's finally going to be there. But even in the mural design, I'm going to be honest, and as you, I guess, you're still getting from Ward 3 and Ward 1, locations and that. I don't think that, it shouldn't be coming up at the last minute. I know these two murals, especially the one in Councilor Montoya's ward, with the city even had to expend $12,000 to basically to put that mural, and that should have never happened. It was already beyond the June 30th. But what I'm saying is that it shouldn't come at the last minute, you know what I mean? As far as the mural design, I would have liked a little bit of input where I could have, given input, but I was never asked that. And when we did approve this, the specific words that Mr. Parantu said, it was that they would work with each one of us in our ward, and that hasn't happened. And I think it's important for you guys as the board to know that, yes, finally, eventually, and I think it was because at the last meeting that he presented and he gave me a couple of suggestions, I said, well, what about the idea that I've been telling you? And to me, that was frustrating, but, obviously, he got it done this time. But I don't think that there's that working together. It's more like it's getting shoved down sometimes, and that input from us, I know you guys aren't happy with us and maybe even me personally, but, it's a team effort, you know what I mean? We let's sit down, I would have liked a little bit more cultural into the one in mine, and that's more specific cultural to, that part of town. And that's just, my 2 cents. And I know, now with the next two coming up, I probably feel that, they'd feel the same as me, that they want to have that input also and not just kind of, well, this is what it is and, deal with it. And I just so you guys know as a board, that, moving forward, that, that a little bit more communication is done. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Montoya?
I, on the other hand, I guess I don't want to go back to a year ago, but, or 2 years ago. But, I am pleased with the openness that has happened in the last 3 months. I didn't like the first location, and they listened. It was at the Northeastern Regional Alta Vista Hospital, and, it was privately owned. In my ward, we only have one city building, and that's the fire department. So, and that was very appropriate. And the first drawing or artwork mural that was proposed, it wasn't acceptable. And I let you guys know it wasn't acceptable. So we had a couple of meetings after that, city manager, the chief, myself, the fire chief, and the artist. And that was changed to the current one. So I encourage our council here to get involved with you guys and get their input as to what they want in that mural. That's their ward, and it's supposed to be about our history and our culture. And if they don't have a right location, if you have to build a wall to do it, I'm all for that. I didn't have where else to put one. I was gonna have to build a wall somewhere on 7th Street, maybe that new park that they donated to us. That's what I was thinking, or right in front of San Miguel Aro, but that wasn't feasible, and that was gonna be expensive too. So, it turned out okay for us there. And we did have to make some changes and spend a little bit of money, but hopefully, it'll last for a long time. We beautify our city and we send out a message. So I thank you for mine. On the Grace Block project, where are we on that? 10%, 20%, 50%, 90%? Mr. Manager?
Councilor Montoya, so we just got the award about, I'd say, a month and a half ago. So we did give a task order to our engineer to go ahead and give us 100% drawings. There was already some preliminary drawings done for the railroad phase. So once we have those stamped, then we can go to RFP for bids.
Okay. Because, I would like for Mayor and Council to see those plans from like 40% to see more or less what's all involved. And so that we won't fall back onto what we did the first project, the first 2.2 million. We ran short. And we had to go, Councilman Romero and myself went and got some additional funding for that. to complete the project. And we don't really want to do that this time around. We want to make sure that we stay within budget and that the city is part of that project. So, is that okay?
Absolutely, you own the street, and we are partners, as you said, so absolutely, we will make sure we are on top of it.
And that project, I don't know, I guess I would ask that Main Street at one point, maybe try and address the drainage issue or that dip that's right before 12th Street on Douglas. The one that people always go around with.
The one in front of my house.
Yes. I don't know if that's where you live, but I
Yes.
guess, yeah, I don't know if you live there. But I think that maybe Main Street could help us out with too.
I think that's a Maria question because it's a complicated drainage issue. A lot of water flows down Douglas.
I'm just throwing it out there, maybe in the future, we can address that issue there. The same way that we addressed on 4th Street and Waka and those areas for drainage purposes. Yeah, thank you.
Just a heads up, Councilor Montoya, I know I've been working with Arnold and some of my street ward money, and they're gonna address that thing here pretty soon. I don't know where they're at, maybe you know.
We had to recreate the requisition now that the new fiscal year is, and it's on the calendar, on the schedule for concrete work the valley gutter should be replaced if that's the location that you're talking about. It's deteriorated.
I'd like to, once again, I'm ecstatic that the murals are going up. I worked with Susie, I think I talked to Susie, was the first person that I talked to about art in public spaces. And I would love to see hundreds of murals in this town to make it an attractive, something attractive for people to come and see. So personally, I'd like to thank Susie because she even helped with getting some grant money to seed this program. So thank you so much, and thank you for all your work. I'm just ecstatic that there's going to be art going up around town. So I'm so excited. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, can I make a motion?
Yes.
Make a motion to approve Main Street de Las Vegas fiscal year 2023 quarter report.
There's a motion on the floor by Mr. Montoya. Second, please.
Second, Mr. Mayor.
Second by Mr. Ulibarri. Roll call, please.
Counselor Romero?
Yes.
Counselor Casey?
Yes.
Counselor Montoya?
Yes.
Counselor Yellowbray?
Yes.
I have a motion by Counselor Montoya and a second by Counselor Yellowbray. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Motion carries.
Thank you, Danielle. Thank you very much.
We appreciate your time and have your comments noted, and we'll be in contact.
Thank you very
Thank you.
much, Tasha. Good luck with your new position.
Thank you.
All right. Next order of business, please.
Mr. Mayor, next business item is business item number 2, request approval of proposal 2023-24 for the water treatment plant system planning, design, and construction phase engineering services to HDR, Bohannon, Houston, and Molson Corbin and Associates. We have
Make a motion to approve RFP 2023-24.
There's a motion on the floor by Mr. Romero. Second, please. Second by Mr. Montoya. Roll call, please.
Counselor Yellowbray?
Yes.
Counselor Casey?
Yes.
Counselor Montoya?
Yes.
Counselor Romero? I have a motion by Counselor Romero and a second by Counselor Montoya. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Motion carries.
Thank you. Thank you, Maria. Thank you, Danielle.
Mr. Mayor, next item is business item number 3, discussion and direction regarding questions to be placed on the ballot for the upcoming regular local election.
I do have one, and it's going to be an amendment to the charter. I would definitely ask the public that the office of the mayor become a full-time position.
Does the salary come with that, Mr. Mayor?
Yes. I believe the city needs a full-time mayor. I think they should be paid. And it can happen after I'm dead or gone. But, I'm just saying that from my experience with everything that we've gone through in these last 3 or 4 years, I would really support getting a full-time mayor or full-time benefit mayor that would require them to be here all the time. That's the only one I have.
Did you have one?
Yeah, I guess I have a few, but I'll let you guys go. And
I don't have anything.
You don't have anything? So, and this goes to my colleagues here, again, one of the ones that, I think has been kind of controversial but I think it's important, this was the will of the people and I know it's been questionable with city managers, on section 5-01C, pertaining to the city manager and the ICMA. I would like to see if we could put that up, as a question to see if we would, if the public, I know I have my opinion on it, but I know it's, we've had so many issues on basically the language, working towards achieve, and if they do, they don't, and to me, it's kind of a, either we put more specific that they have to complete it or something, but we also know that it's hard to find city managers with that ICMA. So I would like to put that question out to the public to see if they would want to, maybe remove it, or if they vote for it, then, it gives us a clear understanding to the, to the council that, hey, the public does want, city managers to have this, and we can go through so many items here in this charter, that I know we're not following it to a T, but it's very difficult, to, even committees, things like that. But I think this one's an important one because, sometimes it sounds like we as councilors are being, and even our current city manager probably says, well, I'm working towards it. But, is it something that the community really wants or need, or, feels that should be, a requirement of the city manager? I think we're one of the few communities that require that, and to me, I think it kind of limits us, or it puts us to where we're not following the charter. And I again, as I made my comments earlier today, earlier this meeting, is that at the end of the day, we have to follow, this is the charter that we're supposed to follow, and if you really kind of follow it, we don't follow it to a T either. So, I'll be the first to admit that, hey, we're wrong, and this is one of those questions that I think needs to be addressed. The other question, I know we're having issues as far as committees. I think that question, and there's like 3 of them, that pertain to residency in each ward, but we're coming into the issue to where, we can't find some, willing members of the community to participate in these committees, and it's been very difficult. So I think if we could look into that, or put it towards within San Miguel County, that's my second one. My third one pertains to our city attorney. I know there's language in question, and this even pertains to the RFP. Should the if we go out for RFP, should the firm that gets this RFP be from the county? To me, it's debatable. To me, the way I read the charter, it specifically states, a contract, meaning like our former attorney. RFP is a little bit different, because if that's the case, then today as it stands, right now, we're in violation of our charter because the attorneys that we have right now are from Albuquerque. So again, what I mean? We follow the law, and I think that, needs to, I think that needs to be put up also. And
That's a great idea.
Those are just my things. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Well, they're not in-house, though. That charter reflects in-house attorney. Our attorneys are.
The RFP that we would be putting out isn't an in-house attorney either.
That one should be 3 days in-house.
But they're not a city employee, they're a contract.
Yeah.
So, and that's where I'm,
No, I totally agree. It shouldn't be a requirement.
they won't be appointed, it's a contract. So you can't, yes, they're required to come over here to the city, but they're not a
Bound to
city
live
employee that
within
have
the
the
limits.
retirements and the benefits and things like that. So again, I say that's debatable, but that's just my 2 cents. And, as we move forward and we deal with this charter, we need to be as clear and then make sure that we're following it. There's even some committees in here that I know that we still haven't done, but again, it's hard to find people to fill these committees and, even, I'll stop there and then that's just my 2 cents on questions that I feel that we should put in or address.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Matoy?
I would be in support of on all those recommendations. I would not be supporting in, I guess, allowing county citizens to be inside committees. The city charter already says that on commissions and boards have to be within the city limits.
Were you recommending that we remove that stipulation?
Or put in at least within the county.
Yes.
Because,
So there are people who want to serve that live in the county and that are qualified to serve on commissions and boards.
But they vote in the county and not vote in the city,
So,
and it's not going to bring it.
But we can't.
Leave it up to the voters.
Yeah, and that's why I'm saying, at the end, let the
Because,
voter decide.
yeah.
Then there's a lot of these questions that I know right now we're not following to the T, so this is just gonna clarify. The people want it, okay, well, this is what we're
And I
gonna.
don't want to debate it. I just want to make my point of view on that one issue. I would have one recommendation, and that would be section 607. It's campaign and ethics board. I think that verbiage of letter A and B, all of it should be deleted, because I don't think there's ever been a governing body that has used it, and I don't think there's a mayor that wants to use it, and I don't think that it's necessary to be on the charter.
what is it?
Campaign and Ethics Board. The process has not been utilized. We've never appointed anyone to that board, and it's useless being on the books.
It's just the creation of that board.
And let the voters decide.
Okay. Could you give those recommendations to the city clerk and then bring them up for approval at another meeting?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Okay.
And Mr. Mayor, I did ask the city manager to check with our attorneys on that item, see if we would be out of compliance on doing that. Or if we, it wouldn't be a good idea for us to do that.
Okay.
Thank you.
The next thing for us to do is we'll have to turn these questions that you guys just said into a resolution, and then we'll have to have an attorney look at it, and then we'll have to, if you guys approve it, we'll bring it back for you guys to approve the resolution, and then we'll have to give it to the county clerk.
Wonderful. So just for Mr. Romero's sake, the information would have to be put into a resolution. We would have to approve it, and then it has to go for approval for our legal.
I guess tonight would just be kind of the direction on
Yeah.
how we want Cassandra to word it. But I just think these are questions that we should put up, and I don't know, I know your question, if I could add to that, Mr. Mayor. Just kind of thinking, I think the question for now could be vague. Do you support the city looking into a full-time mayor? And then we're going to have an election in 2025. And at that point, then we would have more details if they say yes. Okay, what would the salary, what would this, and then put another question then, and then from there it would kind of be like a process. It wouldn't happen overnight, but at least we do the research. Is that kind of?
That sounds great. That sounds good.
I did have one last question, Mr. Mayor, and that is, so we appointed a charter commission, and that charter commission is supposed to review anything that we want to put in a resolution or in referendum. So is this going to go to them at some time for review or recommendation? Because they don't have to?
No.
Okay.
So, Mr. Mayor, for clarification on the new charter amendments that were approved last election, that was actually removed by the that specific language, and I probably have to look at it, but the language is said about the committee, the language specifically now says that we may act, we don't have to go before them, so, just for clarification.
All right, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Mayor, I move that we adjourn.
There's a motion on the floor by Ms. Casey to adjourn. Second, please. Second by Mr. Ulibarri. All in favor? Meeting adjourned. Have a good being here.